Cutting edge guests, awesome, uncensored, jaw-dropping information, plus funny memes, good deeds, and loads of laughter. Kind of have it all. Ladies and gentlemen, if your soul's awake, then welcome, because you're in the right place. All right, you divine lions and lionesses, it is that time of the week. Send it Sunday. We are focusing on NESARA. It is here for everybody. It is about to be unleashed. Cuba is next, then Canada, and President Trump's plan for a wealth tsunami to be unleashed across the planet. I'm going to deep dive into it myself, Brad Wozny, your host, once again on this epic event with the comms, which are coming out directly from the White House and the Commander-in-Chief himself. Share this with Patriots everywhere if you feel so inclined and it resonates, and I'll see you in the live chat. Welcome back. Here we are, Brad Wozny. It's been a little bit since I've seen you guys all across the world. A little bit over a week and a half doing spring break stuff in March. That's the first time in 7 years been able to do that. It means things are settling down just a little bit, a wee bit. And it's amazing to have all of you from across the world here, even in Ontario, as mentioned. We're going to be having tomorrow Pastor Archer Pavlovsky and James Bowder, Freedom Convoy. Stand by for that live. And then on Tuesday, the aide-de-camp of the President of the Re-inhabited Republic and a whole bunch of other incredible people for the Re-inhabited Republic. The incredible shows coming up over the next week. And for those who have sent prayers to Norman, yes, he was arrested yesterday by 5-6 Ottawa police, took him down, threw him in solitary confinement in Ottawa General Hospital. He spent 7.5 hours there, denied food, denied water, denied having a lawyer present, and they wanted to give him a psych evaluation and start jabbing him. And he said, "I'm fine. You are jabbing me without my consent. That's the Nuremberg Code, and you will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law." They finally released him late in the evening last night. Again, he's a 70-year-old man, and all the clothes that he has are in a Loblaw shopping bag. So he's literally living by the grace of other people. So I know, just sharing that for those of you who are in the know. But that call went viral around the world because he was on with another Canadian patriot named Vanessa, and she recorded the entire interaction. So he will be taking, again, measures against the law enforcement and the judiciary, the weaponized judiciary. So things are still at that level where we have deep state coming after us all across the world. And we have to put all of I'm going to encourage you to put all of your prayers behind President Trump, the Trump team, the White Hat Alliance, because this is something which you saw, if you're not aware of President JFK's assassination attempt. This is a gold-backed currency, now a reality, and paper is burning out, fiat across the planet. And this is the greatest financial shift in modern history. It's already been underway. It's been underway for decades, been set in motion since JFK was in office. We're seeing, and I'll be sharing with you all the information, COMEX and LBMA are being drained, silver, gold, oil prices. You know about the wars erupting. I don't even have to share that with you. All I know where it is right now, because we have gold at 45.73 an ounce this very moment, Sunday. And then we also have silver down at the 70s, which as far as I'm concerned is a freaking fire sale. Remember, a year ago it was $28 January 1st. Then it was 70 plus 78 this year. Then it went up to $120, $120, and then it's kind of done all the swings. I'm going to share with you why. And then now we have other respected Wall Street analysts determining that silver would be $250 an ounce this year, $397 an ounce this year, potential for $500 an ounce by the end of the year, all that kind of stuff. It's a very epic show, which I've been busy preparing for all of you, and want to welcome all of you. Divine Lions, Lioness is back. In case you don't know, Brad Wozny here. I served what I thought was a country, a sovereign nation, but it's not. It's corporatocracy, the Crown Corporation of Canada, registered July 1, 1867, Washington, D.C. So I served that as an infantry soldier for a period of time, then as a initial attack helicopter fire ranger. Was awesome fighting fires across northern Ontario and the Yukon. Then I've had my time, as you all know, my background, and we'll jump into it, my time in the corporate world and then as an entrepreneur. So I think the most powerful time we're in right now is the spiritual awakening. I really tap into that and align with it. Extremely powerful with what is going on, the gamma light, the cosmic rays. And you're like, Brad, how does this have to refer to NESARA? Because this is all lining up for us. Some of you might not believe in the cosmological or the astrological signs that we're getting. That's totally fine too. You don't have to worry about it. But April 1st is New Year's. That's why they called it April Fool's Day. April 1st is New Year's. And we have some liberation coming. Here's a video of President Trump on Air Force One with regards to that, which is a great way to kick this off.
It is a liberating day for our country. We're going to be getting back some of the wealth that very, very foolish presidents gave away because they had no clue what they were doing. And April 2nd, I would have made it April 1st, but you know what April 1st is? April Fool's Day. I figured, I don't like doing it, but I made it April 2nd. But it's a liberation day for our country because we're going to be getting back a lot of the wealth that we so foolishly gave up to other countries, including friend and foe. Yes.
There you go, including friend and foe. And I want to thank you, everybody we have on Rumble and YouTube just kicking it. This will be up on Facebook and X and all the other accounts very shortly after I wrap up here this evening. So let's just dive into that and start there. April 1st is, they've told us April Fool's Day. April 1st, it's actually the beginning of our actual new year. We're not going with the Gregorian calendar anymore after this. And what's been happening? Well, we have bank runs. So do we expect bank runs? Very likely. And let me talk about that and give you some information to it. I'll tie back to that in a moment. Now, Jane Street, while I was on that little spring break hiatus, Jane Street was caught fixing silver prices in America, COMEX and the CME. So we were waiting for justice for those guys. We saw what they did with crypto. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in suppression, which is awesome, though, from a standpoint of the great sting operation, seeing it all come out, right? Whether it's the Epstein stuff, where it's stole election stuff. I've got some great information you guys are all going to like about that as it relates to your bank account, your wallet, and sovereignty for yourself. And I just heard a quote from a great economist said, most of the world is dumping the US dollar like it's yesterday's trash. So again, there is a complete race out of paper, fiat, anything traded on stock exchanges. I mean, we saw hundreds of billions of dollars erased from the stock market this month, right? In terms of what has been happening, and banks are hemorrhaging. And I'm going to show you proof of that, of the largest in the world in the stock market side and on the banking side. And this is not about fear, because listen, it's like that clip in Austin Powers. If you ever watched that movie, the very first one, where Austin Powers jumps up on a steamroller and he tries to chase down the guy, and the guy sees it coming, and it's all that comedy, no, no, no. And it takes 2 minutes until it catches up with him and it runs over him. That steamroller, in my personal belief, is the freaking stock market, the fiat crash. It has to crash. I've talking to other experts that are in the know that you could say are White Hat Alliance, and they're saying it's a 3-day to a 10-day EBS that's going to happen. The White House even put out a comm regarding that this week. I'll show that with you again, as it's been on our X, it's been on our Telegram. Make sure you're following all of that as well. So the oil cartels are pumping up the prices of fuel and trying to create this energy scarcity all across the world, right? Like, Brad, you're going to talk about the banks. Now you're going switching to oil. Hang on a second. Follow me here. Because here's the thing. As President Trump was putting out just on True Social this week, here's where the USA is at right now. This is just 6 days ago. USA now produces more natural gas than Russia, Iran, and China combined. That's natural gas. Well, take a look about this. He is the global leader. America is the global leader in oil production now. So again, you had the 80 million barrels of oil alone that came in from Venezuela last month in February, because we're still in March. We're almost there at April. And we have an incredible amount of oil and strategic oil reserves, which have been bumped up. So therefore, when you're sitting here looking at things like, well, what's going on in Australia and India and South Korea, and they're talking about the oil crisis and all of that kind of stuff, that is a manufactured event. It is manufactured by the governments, the cartels. It's part of the sting operation. And are we, you, me, some of us, we're going to feel more pain in those type of countries, right? Commonwealth, corporatocracies. Yeah, we could feel a little bit of pain. Yeah, but you have to be prepared. My very first show 4 years ago, the rule of 7 Ps. They taught me in the Canadian infantry, the law or the rule, depending on how you want to interchange levels of 7 Ps, means proper previous planning prevents a piss poor performance. You always got to have what? Number 1 on your hierarchy of needs for yourself, water. Have a month's supply of water or an ability to make your own water. Draw it out of the air, which is very possible. You know, spring water, all that type of stuff. Then you've got to have food. Then you've got to have security, right? You got to have your shelter, etc. Have your backup plan, your go bag. If you have a home or a condominium building, have extra jerry cans of fuel. You got a backup plan just in case, right? Because you may not panic. The other people around you might freak out and go into a hairy conniption. Remember that old word? It's a pretty funny phrase. And so you have to be like, okay, hang on a second. I got my domain taken care of. I have my family taken care of. I have my backup plans. I have my community. I know who my neighbors are. I make sure they have extra food, water, just in case. Just in case. You got cash. Maybe you have some other things like physical precious metals to barter or trade. You have alcohol to barter and trade because, unfortunately, you know, that's a big thing to barter and trade and can work really well. We're in the golden age, right? As President Trump says. So let's continue back. I want to talk to you about the bank runs and the potential for that, right? Because the property taxes in Bondgate are now out there wide. Remember, every time that you pay taxes on your property, you actually don't own the property for, yes, you might have a piece of title that you got from a title company, or if you're in Vancouver right now, with 2 million people receiving their eviction notices from the Musqueam Nation that never had a language until 1997. And it was made up at the University of British Columbia by China. Made up a language, made up a language. And so did some of the other bands there. Wow, that came out in the information age. So you don't own it unless you've done a land patent on it, which we've covered in shows here before. You could go online, you could figure out how to do that if you're worried about it. But this is something that the White Hats and President Trump are moving in fast to attempt to protect. So you're not evicted, right? You have 2 million personal, residential and commercial property owners that face eviction all across Vancouver to Burnaby, British Columbia, and eventually it's going to come to Delta, Richmond, all those other ones, because they sold it through UNDRIP in the United Nations. So property taxes, when you look at it in the US, the same thing happens. They say that you don't own your property and you owe them for something that you have already bought, unless you have a land patent, and then you don't have to do property taxes, or you have to wait until a law or an act is passed, like they did so greatly in Florida. So Trump is getting rid of property taxes July 4th. This is going to be an incredible landmark year. Also, on Gitmo, people are thinking there's nothing going on behind the scenes. You might not have all this stuff. Remember, Article 2 is invoked by President Trump, which got rid of Admiralty law. We are under the Law of War Manual worldwide. He is still the commander-in-chief since 2016 in the invocation of the Law of War Manual. It continues to be updated. And under that, you have private individuals, non-governmental, non-military, who can be prosecuted for military tribunals for crimes against humanity, crimes against children, and RICO as well on a massive level. Of course, government officials for treason, etc., and stolen elections. And if you're not too sure about that, we can go right over here to something that's a website called sam.gov, sam.gov. Take you all right over here. Because what's cool is if you have watched any of our shows regarding defense war, or myself and Derek for years doing our Where We Go On, We Go All weekly, sam.gov is a U.S. government website. And you can go right down here. I've just went to the search bar. You can see home. Then I click search. And you can go over here. And you can type in simple search function Guantanamo. Because Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, has received $500 million for a major upgrade, and it's nearly finished. So here you go. There's 9 results on all domains. Just on that, you go for any words, Guantanamo. You can see the government contractors and the bids that have been out to tender for work to be done there. And you can just keep going and going and going, right? Guantanamo Bay will give you more directly. There's 961 results for Guantanamo Bay on the government website. For tenders, contracting, federal assistance, you name it. And we had 600 judge advocate generals, which were called up to Guantanamo Bay over the last week and a half, as it's been reported. So those are 600 JAG trained officers. Remember, they've been trained out of bar, Esquire, into common law, constitutional law, and military law, and have to follow the law of war manual right now, prosecution, since we're all living under that around the world. And now we get to the banks, okay? Because again, those who have been taxing and enslaving you for decades, and those who are still perpetuating it now, who are alive, living, breathing, not really a good soul, their day is, if it's not already come, it's nearly here. Now, let's also remember that in February, after the State of the Union, there were 47 flights which took place in a 72-hour period of time. And the passenger manifests report over 250 of those flights out of the Washington, D.C. area went right down to Guantanamo Bay alone. So who are those hundreds of passengers who were flown out of the D.C. area after the State of the Union address that we saw President Trump last, just eviscerate, the deep state and the demon rats, and praise those Medal of Honors handed out, and incredible people and medals of freedom that were given during that State of the Union. Things that make you go, right? So that's really cool. Okay, on to the banks. This is so awesome. And remember, keep it at a high level in terms of being very excited, because the end is nigh from this standpoint. I'm going to take you down to UBS. Did you know UBS, like UBS Warburg, one of the largest banks in the freaking world, has just halted $500 million of withdrawals from people, the ability to redeem their funds for 3 years. Here it is right now on Reuters, published on Friday. Well, I guess March 26th is Thursday, probably. My apologies, it is Thursday. Published 3 days ago, Thursday. UBS halts withdrawals, $469 million in the real estate fund for up to 3 years on Reuters. And here's what it says. Swiss lender UBS has suspended withdrawals from its Euroinvest real estate fund for up to 3 years, citing insufficient liquidity. And the bank said in an investor notice seen by Reuters, in this challenging market environment, UBS Real Estate GmbH has taken a decision to suspend redemptions at this time to ensure the protection of all our investors' interests. The bank said in a statement, okay, I told you about the bank runs. That is a massive, massive sign that these bank runs are coming. If they don't have the liquidity to pay any investors who do a capital call for redemption, even a partial redemption of their investment into one of their funds, that should be a major warning sign and a red flag for anybody who has tons of money in the account or tons of money, in my personal belief, in the stock market. Let's go to something else here right now, right? Why is that important? Because just in the last week, BlackRock halted all their redemptions. So the number one and deep state, BlackRock owns Vanguard, owns so many publicly traded companies, and then other private enterprises, they keep scooping it up. So for example, if you had $1 million investment in BlackRock, they halted all your redemptions and are only offering 5% of the redemptions back. So you put $1 million into BlackRock and you want it to grow at a projected 8% or 12% per annum rate locked in, they're only going to give you 5% or 50 grand back, right? So if you put in 10 grand, you're only going to get 50 bucks back. Same thing we saw with another fintech company, Blue Owl. They suspended redemptions. Apollo, which is one of the largest real estate investment trusts that we were working with. I say we, in a private enterprise that I had many, many, many years ago, right after the 2008 crisis that I stood up on it. We're trying to get into Apollo and have them back us on some of the non-performing loans and notes that we were buying and doing arbitrage on. Guess what? They suspended all redemptions. Apollo Real Estate Investments. So you have the largest fish in the stock market and real estate investment pond suspending investments, redemptions. Oh, we'll take your money, but we won't give it back to you for a little while. No, we're going to say 3 years here. No, we're going to give 5% right now and tell you maybe we'll revisit in a year, like BlackRock, right? That's it. They suspended it. That's it. Like over 2 million or 2 billion worth of capital. You've given them 2 billion in capital, imagine, as an investor. And they're just like, yeah, we're not going to give it back to you. No, that's it. Redemption? No. Did you see what you signed and all of this? So massive, massive problems all overseas. And that to me leads right up to the bank runs. But that's not just the only thing here, right? With the bank runs to be aware of and the redemptions, we have the gas lineups. Well, again, this is a manufactured crisis. And we're talking about the gas lineup. So let me take you right over here to this. This is on the Business Times in Australia, interfacing with the great Ricardo Bossi, Lieutenant Colonel, and his lovely Chief of Staff and wife, Rhiannon. So hopefully be back on the show here very shortly. Not hopefully, it is going to happen. We've confirmed it. We're just locking the time for Australia. So let me take you here to the Australia fuel shortage. As reported on Wednesday, Australia fuel shortages expand to hundreds of service stations. The country's biggest supplier, South Korea, has already said that it will cap some exports. So the exports haven't happened. You got to remember, this stuff comes in. It's been at the pumps. It's been in the tanks. It's been in the strategic oil reserves and the supply tanks for months before it ever shows up. But all they're doing is they are injecting fear into the population. Out of order, out of door. We don't have that. Somebody turned off the tap. Oh my gosh, we can't really get these oil exports over because something's going on in the Strait of Hormuz, or as President Trump just leaked out, maybe we should call it the Strait of Trump, which, by the way, I've got great news for everybody coming up here on that note shortly. So here's what it says. Prices of petrol and diesel have both jumped, according to Australian Institute of Petroleum data, adding to an economic pressure. Photo Reuters. Melbourne, hundreds of service stations across Australia have reported fuel shortfalls as the war in the Middle East disrupts global supplies. Surprise. Well, surprise. Do you know, and I bet anybody here who grew up in Canada, the United States, at least they saw that, or in South American countries, have you ever remembered a time when the price of gas has been cheaper on a weekend than it has been midweek? I always noticed this. By Thursday night, you wanted to fuel up your car for the weekend because the gas prices go up Thursday night. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they come down Monday afternoon. And then they're down Monday night. Tuesday, Wednesday is usually the best time to fill up your car because they bump it up. So again, this is what they do on purpose. Price fixing, price scheming, and trying to create a demand shortage for fuel and petrol and the enslavement. This stuff is going to be over this time next year. Anybody who has followed under Shield of Americas, in my opinion, from everything that has been happening here. So it's really, really powerful to have a comprehension that, yep, you know it's fixed. Yep, you know the government officials are in on it. Yep, you know that the companies are in on it too. And oh my gosh, yeah, it's not a finite supply. Oil, it's infinite. It's the second largest liquid available on Earth behind water. Isn't that incredible? So all of this is coming to light in a way. Now let's talk about that. I just saw mentioned in the chat for Liberation Day. Okay, so I'll take you over here. And this is incredible, why I truly appreciate everything that the White House has been pumping out. Now remember, earlier this year, President Trump, Scott Bessent announced, right, Secretary of Treasury and Federal Reserve, Trump accounts, jumpstart the American dream. Did you know that there are 3 million American families who have signed up their kids? So that's 3 million new American kids and babies signed up for this when it opens on July 4, 2026. America 250. It's freaking amazing. You're going to enroll the child, sit back, watch your money grow. And the Treasury, your government, the sovereign nation of America, the business of America, invests in your child. And by the time they're 18, they'll have $100,000 in the account, untouched, just from the business of America, thanks to tariffs and how business is properly running. Look, at 18, Trump account is all theirs. Now, what's also cool, you go to this website. Let's just say that your child doesn't touch it and you've registered them. Look at this, at age 55, if you're contributing $5,000 a year to match what the government's putting in there, then that child of yours would have $13 million if you're contributing $250 a year. So here's your compound interest, which Einstein said is one of the best formulas in the world. Compound interest. Okay, so at age 27, if you're contributing nothing a year, all right, 15,000, $250 a year, 51,000, right? 5,000 a year, 742,000. It all just goes and goes and goes, right? There's, by the age of 18, if you're contributing 5,000 a year to your child as well in a match, boom, 271,000. It's all there for you. And you've got to thank the fact that on America 250, this is part of NESARA. Now, the National Economic and Security Act applies to sovereign nations, not Commonwealth countries. Sovereign nations, complete difference. Because a Commonwealth country is a corporatocracy, and that corporatocracy, whoever's the prime minister is actually a CEO. Whoever's on a province or a territory and is a premier is the CEO of the subsidiary company, the affiliate, right? The sister company below that umbrella of that organization is about sovereign nations. So the Global Economic Security and Reformation Act, that's what it's about. Not only just a financial standpoint, we are talking about security. You've got the secure borders, you have law and orders, you're following divine law, and you're making an investment, a capital investment into your people, your sovereign individuals, because you are running your sovereign nation as a business enterprise. Small governance. Remember, government is the Latin derivative of governus mentis, which means to control minds. Just like mortgage. Mortgage are two French nouns, death pledge. Mortgage, death pledge. Governus mentis, to control minds. So you have a small form of government who has got complete aspects of this, my strategic plan for this, for Treasury. This might be the Philadelphia Coinage and Mint Act of 1792, which we're brushing off, bringing back for America's 250, and placing President Donald Trump's signature on it as the first American president ever to have their signature on a gold-backed currency during this golden age. Now, before I go on to that, let me just cover off what's great about China. China here, as we know, is being wiped out on part of an economic side, okay? Metaphorically speaking as well, for the communist dictatorship that has controlled it, embedded it, and been in there for generations, that is being removed. So here's President Trump posting on March 25th that my meeting with the highly respected president of China, President Xi Jinping, which was originally postponed due to our military operation in Iran, has been rescheduled and will take place in Beijing on May 14th and 15th. Which gives them 2 days to return for May 17th, the day of repentance. George Washington in 1776 noted that May 17th is a day of repentance for America, and this May 17th, America's 250, President Trump is rededicating it to one sovereign nation under God in Washington District. So here we have it, that they're finalizing the alignment of what they're bringing forth in America's 250. Obviously, the justice for the deep state and what they've done with their crimes against humanity, the jabs, the child mutilations, the trafficking, etc., etc. Now, we talk about the gas and the oil prices in Iran, and also what has been happening, and people were worrying about that and everything at the pumps and the exports. President Trump just posted this, right? We're sitting here yesterday afternoon where he reposts this image about the capability of 20 ships which have just gotten through the Strait of Hormuz. So he took a screenshot of Ishak Dar, who says, I am pleased to share great news that the government of Iran has agreed to allow 20 more ships under the Pakistan flag to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. 2 ships will cross the strait daily. This is a welcome and constructive gesture by Iran and deserves appreciation. It is a harbinger of peace. Harbinger of peace? Board of peace. Isn't that interesting? Harbinger of peace and will help usher stability in the region. This positive announcement marks a meaningful step toward peace and will strengthen our collective efforts in that direction. Dialogue, diplomacy, and such confidence-building measures are the only way forward. At J.D. Vance, at Sec Rubio, at Arrigacci, and at Steve Witkoff. And President Trump, 17 hours ago, this is when I snapshotted it, just how it worked out, everybody. That's pretty neat. I'm just noticing that now. Posted that on True Social. So once again, now you're seeing all of the deep state actors who are manufacturing an energy lockdown in a crisis. All of those who are complicit in moving forward with that are going to have their time due. Their military tribunals, wherever it's going to take place. Diego Garcia, there's places all around the planet too. And in addition to it, it's coming for Canada, right? Because I said Cuba and Canada. And then we have wealth tsunamis. Let me discuss that for a little bit, right? Now, this was posted by Nick Shirley and then picked up by Wealth Moose, who is pretty awesome. I think he does a great job in Canada, getting some of the truth out there. I've got a lot of Canadian brethren here in our 51st state and sisters who are watching. And here's exactly what Wealth Moose states, right? By taking the picture that Nick Shirley posted this week on his account, he's coming to Canada to unleash and reveal all of the corruption in certain counties, like he just finished up in Los Angeles, right? And the Somalis in Minnesota. So here he's coming to Canada, probably going to start in Toronto, hit Ottawa, hopefully high fives Norman, heads over to Calgary, hangs out with Pastor Arch Pavlowski and the Coots 4 boys and their incredible families and all the Freedom Convoy folks. Then hopefully he gets over to Edgewood, BC to be with Katie Pasitny and her amazing family at Universal Ostrich Farms. And then we continue down the path and then get over to Vancouver. But we'll see. Here's what Wealth Moose says. The receipts are finally coming for the Carney government. U.S. investigator Nick Shirley just confirmed Canada is his next target, while the audits in the room are in vacationing in Rome. An American YouTuber is about to do the auditing they've been dodging for a year. The hit list for Nick: the $26 billion consultant bill, the 1.9 million expiring visas with zero exit tracking. So you have, a ton of people from India and other third world countries. I'm not saying all of India is a third world country, but I'm talking about from a cultural standpoint, there are aspects of it. And then there are actual third world countries that have been importing and flying into Canada nonstop. And the indigenous shell company scams revealed this morning. I mentioned that earlier. We're talking about the Musqueam Nation, and they're claiming the 2 million under UNDRIP and evicting everybody, but it's all being traced back to the CCP in China. So we know who is getting paid for their vote, and they're moving forward that way, right? It says the world is watching. Let's see how principled this government is under a real lens. Now, for those of us who are of the Kanak route, we know that Bill C-9 just passed, which means that, hey, as of today, they're going to throw you in jail if you, quote anything from the Bible, or you say that Canada is China, Venezuela, and the majority of them are pedophiles or pedophile protectors, and they love their child mutilation, and they just want to euthanize everybody, which are all true and all facts. Let's just say that they suppress you, they suppress your VPNs. Well, God bless the U.S. government, because here is what President Trump and the White House team put together. You can go to freedom.gov. Freedom is coming. Information is power. Reclaim your human right to free expression. Get ready. The United States government under President Trump, our wartime commander-in-chief of the world, has launching this website, which already on the deep dive research we can see is going to allow for unfettered access to truth, regardless of what country or sovereign nation. If you're in a sovereign nation, you don't need this, but whatever country you're in, for suppression of news, social media, you name it. You can come on there and it's like an exchange board. So that is very much what is expected to be a Twitter X / Truth Social on steroids for the planet. It is freaking amazing. And I hope everybody's excited about that, because you know what they continue to do, like the news have put up, UBS, all the redemptions are being halted. They don't like this stuff, right? The deep state doesn't like this nasty news that, hey, invest in us, go to our ETF, go to our mutual fund, give us your money, go to the people who are brokering it for us, get it out there to the life insurance people who are, being a street, the mutual, and then give us your money. Wait, you guys want it back? Yeah, we're not going to give it back to you. Maybe 5%, maybe for 3 more years. You're locked. That's it. And you don't have anything physical. You can't do anything with it like physical paper. Like physical silver and gold. Paper goes up in smoke, right? Gold doesn't. And we've got the presidential initiatives coming up. The Freedom 250 and the Task Force 250, which are separate, talking about what is happening and launching. So you can go to this page again, america250.org. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going around there, but you can look at the semi-quincentennial, say that 10 times fast, events which are coming up, where you're located around America, and enjoy it. Go get out there, because nothing can stop what is coming. This is truly remarkable. You also have more, this directly affects finance, more drops coming for Epstein. So here we are on Google. You can just type it in once again. You've got a list of disclosures, the data set files. Now, for some people going screaming, want all the names, give it to us right now. If you just imagine that there are 100 million names and families and generations going back to make sure that you have built a fairly consistent, gotta love it, I have the sun setting my eye right now, a fairly consistent bulletproof case of evidence of tracking all the money, tracking all the trafficking, finding out where the victims are, making sure those victims, if they're still being trafficked, can be rescued rather than tipping them off because they will murder the victims. So that is paramount. The security of life and the liberty of those victims is paramount before anything else that we see justice. So there are a reason why certain names have not yet come out. And maybe those names have already been taken off the earth plane. But we will find out. It will happen. What's important right now is to keep a high vibration up, stepping into your heart mind, and spinning yourself up for the next 100 years or 50 years, and knowing that the med beds are going to be released in the next 3 to 5 years across the public, and all the other energy and wellness technology like we've been sharing, whether it's LifeWave and X39, the X2O water machine is coming. We're doing a show on that on Wednesday. So stand by for Wednesday. Subscribe to alerts on YouTube, wherever you are here, Rumble, Facebook, X, Telegram, over on our podcast platforms of Apple, iHeartRadio, Spotify. On Wednesday, we're talking about the LifeWave X2O water machine, which is already shipping, and tell you how you can get it when it comes out in public mass just in the next 8 to 12 weeks for everybody, right? So all of this stuff is here for you to enjoy, to appreciate, and to leverage as we continue to move forward. What are we doing in terms of moving forward? Well, we've covered off the gas lineups. Let's talk about the gold-backed currency. And I want to bring in a really cool picture. This is not my picture. This was found online. It's been repurposed. If you missed it this week, President Trump could very likely have his own $250, I think this would be great, $250 U.S. Treasury gold-backed note. Now, I think this obviously is manufactured. This one isn't real, but you want the receipts. I'm going to take you right to the website. This is right here on U.S. Treasury. Go home.treasury.gov, press releases on March 26th, Thursday. And here it is. Treasury announces President Donald Trump's signature to appear on future U.S. paper currency. And I want you to pay close attention. I'm going to read out these 3 lines. In honor of the 250th anniversary of the United States of America, President Donald J. Trump's signature will appear on future U.S. paper currency along with the Secretary of the Treasury, marking the first time in history for a sitting president. Then the quote, under President Trump's leadership, we are on a path toward unprecedented economic growth, lasting dollar dominance, and fiscal strength and stability, said Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent. There is no more powerful way to recognize the historic achievements of our country and President Donald J. Trump than U.S. dollar bills bearing his name, and it is only appropriate this historic currency be issued at the semi-quincentennial. So on America's 250, July 4th, this year, a brand new gold-backed issued U.S. paper dollar is coming out with President Trump's signature. And the final quote here, as the 250th anniversary of our great nation approaches, American currency will continue to stand as a symbol of prosperity, strength, and the unshakable spirit of the American people under President Trump's leadership, said Treasurer Brandon Beach. The president's mark on history as the architect of America's golden age economic revival is undeniable. Printing his signature on the American currency, notice it's American currency, not federal currency, and he said golden age in here. All the comms are here for everybody. It's amazing. printing his signature on the American currency is not only appropriate, but also well-deserved. This is the first time in history any president will have their signature on America's currency. And you know that we are partnered with Goldco, so I've got to run their quick aspect of it so you can hear from President Trump himself a little bit in terms of what he thinks is coming. And I'll be right back with you in a minute and a half's time. All right, you sovereign souls, now is the time to protect your money with gold and silver if you already have not. And if you are and you have a chance to do so, I highly encourage to do so even more, because gold and silver will launch the golden age, which Commander-in-Chief Trump has continuously referenced.
The dollar is going down, and it's not a pretty picture, and it's not being sustained by proper policy and proper thinking. This was an opportunity, and maybe an opportunity to show people what's happening with the dollar so that we can do something about it.
Get some if you can. BuddhaLovesGold.com will take you to our partner Goldco. They have over 6,000 five-star reviews. This is why now is the time to buy gold and silver, because we have thousands of Americans buying gold today. The rising inflation has reduced our purchasing power. Dysfunctional politics don't work for us. The US dollar has lost over 97% of its value since 1913, while the price of gold has increased over 9,000%. Silver has fared well against the dollar too, with the silver price increasing over 4,500% since 1913. It's about wealth protection. Physical precious metals act as a hedge against dips in volatile markets. Go over to BuddhaLovesGold.com. That's www.BUDDHA, BuddhaLovesGold.com. You will download your free silver and gold guide today, and our great people over there at Goldco will take care of you. That's BuddhaLovesGold.com. You'll see a picture of me right on there, Brad Wozny. And once again, BRICS is the new financial system. Asset-backed precious metals is the way of the future. This is about financial control. Diversifying your assets with gold and silver puts you in control of your wealth at BuddhaLovesGold.com. Cool. Yeah, you hit BuddhaLovesGold.com. I highly encourage all of you to head on over there right now. You can also call them. And since it's Sunday evening at the moment, they have their phones on from Monday through Saturday. So I will be showing you that we have COMEX, LBMA. Everybody's pulling out of there. They are nearly empty. And what I've covered on shows thus far, experts believe that's the tipping point, that once they're empty, they have nothing, no physical silver or gold to back any of the propped up paper derivatives market, that there will be an upwards of 400 quadrillion derivatives debt market collapse. And I've already shown you the signs of that. UBS stopping any redemptions for 3 years on its real estate investment fund. Apollo REIT announced that as well, over $2 billion US. Can't go and get that back. Another fintech company, and BlackRock as well. Well, you might have put in hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars, but maybe we'll give you 5% back, and then we'll see and reevaluate in a year's time if we're going to do any redemptions for you. These are the massive signs that not only is there cracks in the dam, but the dam is ready to freaking burst. And that dam is a debt bubble. If you don't know about a debt bubble, let me replay this from Fox News with Peter Schiff. This is 2 months ago, and he's been out there saying it once again. Here's a 30-second clip of Peter Schiff on Fox talking about how bad this debt bubble will be. And for those who are really well positioned, like many of the billionaires I've covered here on silver and gold, we'll go back to that too right after this clip, as well as President Trump. What he's saying about the golden age.
The rug out from under the U.S. The dollar is going to collapse. The dollar is going to be replaced by gold. Central banks are buying gold to back up their currencies. They're getting rid of dollars. They're getting rid of treasuries. We are headed for an economic crisis, again, that will make the 2008 financial crisis look like a Sunday school picnic. The biggest difference between the crisis that we're about to have and the one we had back then is this one is all in America. It's not going to be exported to the rest of the world. It's not a global financial crisis. It's an American financial crisis.
It's an American financial crisis, not a world one. An American one. Therefore, I know I've got people watch the show who are advisors, brokers, investors, other ones who watch it. It's typically the females because they're extremely intuitive. And then they're talking with their husband after the show. Maybe we should take a look at this. Maybe we should look at allocating and other things with these markets and these moves. Look at the last 5 years of history of all of the central banks around the world, including BRICS countries, right? Brazil, Russia, India, China, Saudi Arabia, now South Africa. And then you have other African nations and other member nations for BRICS that had applied for it. Look at all of them who've been investing in gold, buying gold by the tons and hundreds of tons. And then silver started picking up in a massive way, silver over the last 36 months. And then look at the massive shifts that also just happened. Do you remember when President Trump had made an announcement in December? The next day, China came out and said, we are halting all of our silver exports beginning January 1st. None of our silver will be exported around the world unless you can prove that you can refine. You can mine and refine up to 800,000 ounces of silver, and by special permit, we will export it. And India went, you know what? We're going to reprice our silver and our gold. That was January 1st. It's March 29 now. What's transpired? Well, take a look at this. This article, and directly from India, its central bank. And here it is. This was February. I show this in February, that the India markets regulator changes the gold and silver valuation for mutual funds. And that's February 26, 2026. But this happens when? New Year's Day, April 1st, right there. That they are revaluing their physical gold and silver holdings April 1st, 2026. Now, this is Securities and Exchange Board of India talking about this for mutual funds. But let's just take a look at what does that actually mean for people when you drill down on it. Remember the Coinage Act of Philadelphia, the U.S. Mint, 1792, stood up and signed in to law by George Washington, former president, big name. And there is metallurism, the bimetallic ratio of 15-to-1 silver. 15 ounces of silver are equated to 1 ounce of gold, and that will be lawful currency for the United States of America, right? And so here we are, where we're sitting here right now with India drawing itself out of the London Bullion Market Exchange. And a great woman pulled all of this together, in India decoupling from the LBMA, because they're actually repricing their silver and gold at a 10-to-1 ratio. And at that 10-to-1 ratio, not where it is right now, where you have 86-to-1, 10-to-1, they are taking a derivative of all of the major exchanges in the world and coming up with their own price for silver and gold. This might be a little bit too small to read, but here it is on the 10-to-1 ratio context. Bottom right-hand corner, I'm reading from here, while the market ratio is higher, this initiative is described as a 10-to-1 silver to gold, or 10 kilograms of silver to 1 kilogram gold framework to facilitate rural and household liquidity for Indians in India. And then the final mark down here at the bottom right-hand corner, the move is considered a significant shift toward a silver standard 2.0 in India, potentially impacting global silver market sentiment by increasing its role as a recognized monetary asset. It's already being done, right? Because it's such a massive industrial asset for everybody. Why this is coming forward. Great to see everybody from around the world here. Truly appreciate it. So once again, what have you had here just in the last several months that affect JSARA and NESARA in a sovereign nation such as America? Well, you have the Trump accounts where by the age of 18, your child will have $100,000 just from the Trump account, all leveraged for them, right? And you can make capital contributions up to $5,000 a year, and by the age of 55, compound interest and contributions, they'll be worth $13 million. That is part of the NESARA infrastructure, as well as sovereign borders, sovereign nation, right? Making sure that your election, you have true integrity, and you're returning back to a constitutional republic out of the corporation. What does Dr. Jan Halper-Hayes said, right? She'll be back on here shortly too. President Biden was the president of a bankrupt corporation of America, USA Inc., 1871. So now you have it that you have a new American currency. It's just not a newsflash for the world. The Federal Reserve note is done July 3rd, 11:59 p.m. And on the very morning at 12 a.m., July 4, 2026, a new American gold-backed currency with Donald Trump's signature on the paper of that currency, backed by precious metals, of which silver has been made a critical strategic mineral via executive order by President Trump. For those people who are in the chat, we have a couple of soul trolls and retards who are like, NESARA is BS. You know, it's like when I was telling people, don't wear a mask. Masks don't work. They're BS. You'll get more sicker. Definitely don't get the jab. They're trying to murder you. And they're like, you are BS. You're a conspiracy theorist. Those retards, that's fine, that are in the chat saying that, no problem, right? Because in an information age, ignorance is a choice. And you all are showing that they're retards. I'm not saying all, because it's not all. There's only like 5 people out of the hundreds of people that we have watching live from YouTube and Rumble and other channels this is being streamed to right now. So yes, it is a restitution of wealth. And by the way, NESARA is something that goes all the way back for generations, eons, in fact. But, you know, here we are right now, enjoying what is up and what is coming. Here's President Trump at the White House just a few days ago, talking about why he loves gold and also mentioning it in the White House too. So the man with the golden age, who now has, as I've read from the Treasury press release just on Thursday, that the new American currency, a new standard for the golden age in the press release, using his own words, signed by him, is talking about gold that same day at the White House. Here it is, everybody.
It's so much more beautiful now. Instead of a cheap, you can't imitate gold. See, I'm a gold person. It's all real stuff. You can't imitate it. Someday they'll discover a paint that will look like gold, and the guy's going to be the richest man in the world. But you can't imitate real gold. It just doesn't. That's 24 karat, which is what this building deserves. But think.
And there you have it, right? And then what you're also going to see, in order for all of this to take place, which many of us believe and top white hats have told us is happening, and the White House put it out again this week. The White House posted the EBS Vibes video. Everybody. Does everybody remember this? Well, if you don't, here it is, March 25th, their little comm about the EBS coming up. There you go. Sound on, White House. And they continue to say that. So we're talking about reading the Q posts and what it is in the Q posts to give you the comms for everybody to be aware of, right? And you don't have to become an expert in the Q post because we're pretty much at the end of it right now. Of course, once again, you have President Trump on March 22nd, just a week ago Sunday, once again, talking about the justice. And here's Mueller in this cartoon, says, I tried to find dirt on Trump, but everything led back to you and Hillary. So that justice will need to happen. That will need a worldwide viewership to participate, to see not only the stolen elections, but the massive amount of trafficking and fraud and everything, including the $85,000 that Obama spent in the Oval Office for ordering pizza and hot dogs from Chicago to enjoy with Hillary Clinton, the Podestas, and Ben Affleck. It's all coming out, and it all has to happen by July 4th. And unite people on this incredible. Yes, there's a question about revaluation of currencies. U.S. is leading the way. That's everything that I'm getting right now as to what is happening. So the U.S. is leading the way. You've just seen that. You've just seen the EBS post been putting out. One more thing as well. If you're not too sure that countries are preparing or being prepared, take a look at this. France pulled 129 tons of gold from the United States and made $15 billion. Now, this is incredible because we just talked about India. Now we have France, maybe not the biggest for GDP in the world, right? But 5% of its gold reserves, of its total gold reserves, as it has reported from its own central bank, was repatriated to America. But no, did they put it on a ship and did they transport it from New York to Paris? No, they didn't. They did something which is nearly unprecedented, which rarely ever happens, and they made $15 billion on hypothecation. On March 26th, as Scott reported, so what did they do? They sold their 129 tons of gold paper in the US being held at the New York Reserve and turn around and took those proceeds and made over $12 billion by converting its old bullion held in New York into newer ones now kept in Paris. So on paper, it's repatriated the gold, but they've actually taken physical possession in their vaults in Paris. And as it says, the Bank of France has been working to align its reserves with modern international standards, replacing older bars with new ones that meet a purity standard of 99.5%. And this has all been taking place this year and finalized. That's pretty amazing. Now, I've been leaving some of the best for last year for all of you, right? You're seeing NESARA, what's happening. Okay, you have all the central banks. Remember, in Canada, the Canadians, right? Carney was the head of the Bank of Canada in 2016, sold all of Canada's gold. And he's quoted as saying, oh, it's an old antiquity. We don't need that stuff anymore, because he is total WEF. He wants to go with the central bank digital currency, track everybody, shut us off, just like, you know, he allowed us to be doxxed from Freedom Convoy and all of the others that got doxxed and close down our bank accounts, capture our bank accounts, send out unlawful orders, you name it, right? Just remember, as I pointed out several times, Carney does not have a actual gray government checkmark on X, and Trump this week posted that he's coming for Carney. He literally said in a Truth Social post, he's like, Canada, corruption, stolen elections, we have the evidence, it's coming out here. That's awesome, right? And therefore, we have no gold reserves in Canada, as it's been reported, and they've sold it all, stole it all, right? And they keep trying to tax and slave all the Canadians and Australians and New Zealanders under the Commonwealth. It's a return to the constitutional republic, which has to happen, which is awesome for the Alberta independence movement, awesome to see for the Saskatchewans who want to get involved, and they're already doing it and standing that up too, which is incredible. And then others in BC, and then Quebec to do their final cessation, because they were never part of the Commonwealth of Canada. They were still belonging to France. And all that's coming out, which is amazing. But let's go to what I was talking about, the best for last, in terms of physical precious metals and the wealth of the world being restored to all of you, all of us, at different periods of time. And of course, it's America first. And we're seeing it with July 4, 2026. Here's China. Remember China? China who said, we're stopping gold exports. China, who is the largest exporter of goods in the world, an export country. That's its business, is to export. That's how it makes the majority of its money in business practices, is exporting. What did it just do? This should be, if there's a wake-up call, that take the Treasury, what I just said about the wake-up call, the new American currency, not Federal Reserve currency, American currency, the new American currency, gold-backed by Trump, right there. Woo! Here's China. China's silver imports hit a record high, nearly 800 tons in January and February. This is on Kitco, one of the largest precious metals tracker publications in the world, right? Look at this. From January and February 2026, over 790 tons of silver were imported into China. This is China buying and importing silver. It is the largest manufacturer and refiner of silver on the freaking planet. Then you have Mexico. And remember, Mexico got shut down just a few weeks ago for the cartel wars and the open streets there. And they do 25%, that's estimated, of all silver in the world. China is number one, but China shut down exports is importing. And if that doesn't tell you that silver is ready to go blasting through the freaking roof and gold along with it, I don't know what else will. Here is the first two paragraphs of this article. China's silver imports hit an 8-year high in the first 2 months of 2026. 8 years! Wow! Since 2018. As a burgeoning demand from the industrial and investment sectors boosted local price premiums, drained domestic silver stockpiles, and drove unprecedented foreign purchases, according to the latest customs data released on Friday. In January and February, China imported 709 tons of silver. Data showed with February alone accounting for a year-over-year record of 470 tons in imports. I want to go and play the shift clip once again because he is out there right now. And we have billionaires, and I'm going to show you them as well, who are calling this collapse coming. So you're not saying it's from me, from a guy who went to take honors business economics at Wilfrid Laurier, the Harvard Business School of the North in the 1990s, as we lovingly appreciated it being called back then, but didn't know how bad Harvard was until now. But here we are. We're sitting here right now on the cusp of something major as the fiat currency paper collapses, and then we have fiscal that rises, and then we'll have a tokenization, whether it's a piece of paper like the American currency or a digital tokenization asset like Ripple XRP against a stable coin for the US dollar. Just pay attention. Here it is, Peter Schiff, once again, if you're just joining.
Now pulling the rug out from under the U.S. The dollar is going to collapse. The dollar is going to be replaced by gold. Central banks are buying gold to back up their currencies. They're getting rid of dollars. They're getting rid of treasuries. We are headed for an economic crisis, again, that will make the 2008 financial crisis look like a Sunday school picnic. The biggest difference between the crisis that we're about to have and the one we had back then is this one is all in America. It's not going to be exported to the rest of the world. It's not a global financial crisis. It's an American financial crisis.
American financial crisis, right? And once again, we're sitting here. The golden age from President Trump keeps pumping it out there. You saw that in the press release that I just read. I don't know how much more I can try to blow the whistle and say, all the greatness is over here. And then that sky is kind of falling because we need it to fall. We need it to collapse. Just like when I was a wildfire fighter and a fire ranger, you're sitting there and you're watching forest fires just eviscerate a forest. But because of the high heat, that allows you to pop up the pine cones, reforest. It's a way of cleansing and regeneration for new and what's to come. And that is truly amazing. Let's go over to the billionaires that I've mentioned for over a year who have bet massively on silver and gold. Here's David Bateman again, still his post, pegged to the top of his account. This billionaire from March of last year. I'm going to read it again, direct word for word what he said in March a year ago about this. Here are the reasons I invested close to $1 billion in precious metals over the past 6 months, including the purchase of 1.5% of the annual global silver supply, 12.96 million ounces. The global monetary system is about to collapse. This is the Great Reset or Basel Endgame. The biggest credit bubble in history will soon pop, 300 trillion. There's no way the U.S. can refinance its 28 trillion in maturing treasuries in the next 4 years without an obscene amount of printing. Trump tariffs are hastening the collapse, and it's by design. Gold and silver are the only meaningful life raft. Physical possession is everything. The whole world right now is a sophisticated game of musical chairs. The chairs are precious metals. Crypto is a psyop. Those who purchase will have no chair when the music stops. Real estate, crypto, stocks, and bonds will all lose significantly compared to precious metals. The banking system has been meticulously designed to seize your assets, to buoy up a collapsing bank sector. This is the great tanking. See it. You have zero counterparty risk with precious metals. I'm up 20% already on most of my purchases. This is not a drill. Your grandkids someday will either muse or lament this financial decision you're now faced with. Don't fail them. Not financial advice, for education purposes only. Hashtag Silver Squeeze. March 31st, 2025, nearly a year ago to the day. And here's a picture of some of the massive pallets of the 12.69 million ounces David Bateman, a multi-billionaire, purchased. What's also happening is 1,000-ounce silver bars are nearly gone. And the average central bank, which receives gold and silver, doesn't do it in little coins and doesn't do it in 10-ounce bars. They do it in 1,000-ounce bars. They're virtually gone, vanished around the world right now, right? You know that the stockpiles are draining, and we keep talking about it and sharing it right now, right here. what has also happened? One final image. So everybody remember 2008. And there were one or two movies that were created about the men who called it. And they were called conspiracy theorists. And this is just crazy. And we don't know how they would know. And there's no way that the market would collapse. 2008 stock market, credit default swaps, collateralized debt obligations, CDOs. Boom. Who called it? Michael Burry. Michael Burry went dark. The last time he went dark in terms of talking about forecasting and making mentions was right before 2008. Now he posted today, right before I came on, regarding the U.S. housing market, HUD, and square footage and spaces, but nothing about precious metals when he went dark. And here it is, his own post a week ago, lights out for Cassandra Unchained, the official X account for Michael Burry, medical doctor, called Cassandra by Warren Buffett, now on Substack with the full story. You have other billionaires across the world pumping into precious metals. I'm not a medical doctor, not an investment advisor, never wanted to be. So glad I'm not. I'm just a guy who can read the absolute black and white, who's fortunate and blessed to have those who are of the White Hat Alliance on here, on the show, telling you what's happening, and then to see the fact that it's all backed up by the White House and the United States government publishing it before your very eyes as it happens. So I want to say thank you all for being incredible members of the audience, the Sovereign Soul Show. All of you divine lions and lionesses, it is going to be absolutely massive. Absolutely massive. And if anybody isn't aware, once again, of the Coinage Act of 1792, we can head right over here once again for a quick reminder that the Coinage Act of 1792 codified this constitutional wording, establishing gold and silver coins as official tender instead of paper currency or fiat currency. The Coinage Act went further by legally fixing the gold to silver ratio at 15-1. 15 ounces silver equal to 1 ounce gold. Peg the US dollar denominated in gold and silver to this ratio, a bimetallic standard, bimetallism, define the country's currency for two precious metals, creating a standard, uniform, stable coinage system that competes on an international scale. And if you all remember that last August, I shared with you that we saw after the Genius Act was put forward, that you had the crypto czar, David Sachs, former board member of Ripple. We had Brad Garlinghouse, co-founder, co-CEO of Ripple, which has the XRP ledger, which has the XRP token, which then went and printed with Treasury, apparently $500 trillion in Ripple RLUSD1 stablecoins that have to be backed by something. That has to be backed by something. And Treasury's been putting it out. Backed by America's wealth, gold, precious metals. And that's where we are right now. Mark these words. It is going to be an incredible time to witness what happens over the next 4 months. And I hope you've all taken the measures to profit, to participate in a way and ensure that you are great with, if it's 3 days or 10 days on the EBS that goes down, you're ready. You're covered. You're not worried about water. You're not worried about food. You got your community as they switch over massively to the quantum financial system and show the world and drop the scales from people's eyes in terms of the criminality that's been happening. But the golden age also means a return for all of us to a type 1 spacefaring civilization. This is truly a remarkable time. Thank you very much for being here. I'm Brad Wozny, the Sovereign Soul Show. And hey, on behalf of me and the Bling Buddha, have yourself a great week ahead. We'll see you back here tomorrow with Pastor Archer Pawlowski and James Bowder, the Freedom Convoy, who is still in the United States, has requested asylum since China is trying to take him down on 15 years for being the man who orchestrated and founded the Canada Freedom Convoy, that movement that changed our world. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us on the program, ladies and gentlemen. Please like, follow, subscribe, share this with 9 friends and family. And of course, if you enjoy our Bling Buddha firing red pills from his 9mm, let us know.